God damn.
Welcome to the Farming Now podcast. We've been thinking about this for, a couple months now.
I've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah, and I've always wanted to create content. And
yeah, that's been your thing for sure.
And every time we get together, dude, we go in really depth conversations about farming and
about everything.
Yeah, that's true too.
Deep in the bucket, whatever we can.
But something that really hurts us seeing our community decay, dude.
Exactly. It really affects us because it's what we see every day. Like, this is what we live in. It's been weird to me to think that I don't really ever think of us as like a farming community till I sit down and really think about it. You know, that's most of what all of our families made their money off of. That's how they raised their families.
Dude, my people's been here for over a century doing this. And I know yours has too.
Oh, definitely. Hell, my mom's people been here since fucking Squire Boone brought them here.
And dude, my grandpa lived for farming. Like, that is what he did. That was all of his pride. Like, everything he loved was his farm. And whenever I was graduating high school in 2013, he advised me not to farm anymore.
Okay, it's wild you say that, because I went down and talked to my grandmother, Mama, a few days ago. And I talked to, these are my mom's people. And when I got out of high school, what I really wanted to do was dairy farm. And I went down there because basically my parents told me I couldn't do it there. And that's what my parents did. Both sides of my family were dairy farmers. And my grandfather had had a stroke in 2000. And he basically lost the ability to farm. And that place kind of went downhill after that. And the dream that I had was to basically bring that dream back alive. And I sat there at the table and was talking to Papa about it. And he pretty much sat right there and told me that he would not let me dairy farm. He would not. They would not encourage that.
Because they seen what was coming.
They knew what I was going to get into.
They'd been struggling since damn mid-'80s.
That's when, and that's where I was going. I was down there talking to Mama and talking about farming, and she basically told me the biggest mistake that they made was just burying their heads in the sand and not spending enough time with their family and just struggling, working every day till dark to make it work. And I mean, that's all they had. That's all they had to do. I mean, as far as that's all they knew.
Of course they would advise us against it.
And that's sad. To me, like any other trade, most family members are proud to have their kids.
Dude, the only reason
those things.
Most farmers are even in it is because that's what their parents did, and their parents.
But okay. That's what I was gonna say. It is a lifestyle. That's the thing. People talk about farming as a job, but it's more of a lifestyle than it falls in the same lines as things like logging and fishing. My dad told me a story about he went to Canada, up in northeast Canada, to this small community, and he was like, it was eerie because it was so similar to the dairy community here, because it has completely fell apart. There was such a strong community at one point, the fishing community. And he was talking to an old boy who owned his dad's fishing boat. And that's a big thing in that community. Basically owning a fishing boat is kind of like owning a farm. That's a huge investment. We're talking millions of dollars.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity for
it's a business.
Money,
yeah. But the thing, he was basically like, I'm just barely scraping by, but the reason I do it is because I'm trying to keep this thing alive. It's like tobacco.
His dad gave it to him.
Well, and it's a pride thing. It's a lifestyle. It's like, you wake up in the morning and you're like, I am an independent small business owner, basically. I thought about it at Victoria's place. One of the most eerie things at her house is that
his wife.
Yeah. Fiance.
fiance, pardon me.
One of the eeriest things at her place was that old man committed suicide there. It was a dairy farm. I remember going in that milk parlor, and it was like the day he left it. Nothing had changed. I mean, coffee cups still sitting on the counter.
Milk charts.
The
still
milk
hanging
charts,
up.
everything still sitting there. Like the day the feed was still in the stanchions. And it just blew my mind because I was like, that is pure. Like, he worked up to the day he died.
I bet
Like
he
that
made sure
man
them calves-
probably.
I bet he milked them.
I bet he milked those cows that morning, knowing what he was going to do. But you know what?
Man.
He had to milk those cows. He couldn't leave that for nobody else. Now, granted, somebody had to come milk them cows that afternoon.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But
God rest his soul.
But it doesn't. I don't really know where I'm even going with that. As far as it is a lifestyle, it's a way. I guess what I was trying to
It's a
say
lifestyle
is
that'll bring you to your knees.
that's what. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. He farmed up to the point where he couldn't no more, and that he was losing it. That's why he did it. And to think that that's something worth taking your life over, because think about that. You have not only had a business go down. You have lost something that's been passed down your family.
Or you worked your ass off
Well,
for
that too.
decades
That
to earn
too,
that
that too,
farm
that
and
too.
lose it.
Yeah.
Feel like a letdown.
Oh, definitely.
Feel like there's no way out. There's no help.
Help, exactly. Trapped.
And that really, this all goes back to like NAFTA and the globalization of our food market. Like we just have way too much of a surplus of foods to where nobody's getting good money for their crops or their animals.
Well, so we'll take this back to Henry County and a lifestyle thing. One of the biggest money makers in this county for the longest time has been tobacco.
Yeah, that's where my people come from.
And that is a lifestyle, because I'm telling you right now, what blows my mind is that there's still people raising tobacco in this county.
I see it up 55, and
And I'm like,
gosh, God
the
bless
only
them, good for
reason
them.
to put out tobacco right now is just because that's what you do.
Yeah.
That is like, it is like ingrained in who you are. That's like giving up
most
your
of
person, like your identity.
dude.
Almost.
Most of my earliest memories are sitting on the setter beside my pawpaw, setting tobacco all day, listening to stories, seeing that, floating the trays, stripping tobacco, the camaraderie, like.
Yes, that's the thing. It's the community. That's what tied this place together. That is one thing that is the saddest thing to see in a county like this is it has completely fell apart as far as community goes. There is no real community left in this county. There is, but it's like the last little shreds that are left over.
And what's crazy about that is we're in Henry County, Kentucky. You can Google Maps that. We are in the middle of nowhere. This is tobacco land, Kentucky.
We used to be in the middle of nowhere, but right now, one thing that I do want to talk about is the fact that Louisville is getting closer every fucking day.
Every day.
And that is one of the biggest problems we're having right now, is the fact that I can't compete with a doctor from Louisville. I cannot
That wants to play farm and play on their four-wheeler.
There's just no way. I can't afford to buy a farm out here for $6,000 to $8,000 an acre and expect to make that farm make enough money to even make the fucking mortgage, much less make money to raise a family.
That's why these big farms are being cut up close to you over there in Smithfield and turning into subdivisions and shit like that, because these farmers, the taxes keep going up and up and up, and now a stat is only 8% of all farmers are under 35 years old. So these old people aren't able to work, earn the money to even pay for the taxes on their land.
Well, the problem with it is that the older generation has been able to, they came along in the good times of farming. They paid their land off, they paid their stuff off. But the problem is that next generation like us, getting started in that.
At 8%.
The problem with it is that it's not a very rewarding thing. Like, I could go to Louisville every day and work an 8-hour job, or hell, just the fucking post office where I work now,
Yeah.
and make good money, raise my kids, and have a good life. Or I can bust my ass till dark every day working 16 hours and barely fucking make it at the end of the day. All on pride.
And
it's
that's
like you said.
your dream
But
is
it-
to work all day, bust your ass, and serve.
Yes, but that's what Mama was trying to tell me. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, like Mama, she's 83 years old.
Right.
What she was pretty much telling me is that all, it's like you said, that's admirable, but is it really worth it at the end of the day when you basically drug your family through the mud because
Bro.
all you wanted to do was farm? You could have went and got a job and raised your family. And I'm not saying that all that's bad. My mother's family was raised great. They raised 4 kids on a farm. They are the tightest family that I know. But like Mama said, she said, we didn't really get to live a whole lot. I think that's what she was trying to tell me.
Guess she had cows to milk.
Yeah, that's the thing about a dairy. It's every motherfucking day.
Yeah, unless-
Twice a day, 365 days a year. Christmas, Thanksgiving, funerals, no matter what.
Unless you're working for Walmart and have all the technology to, you don't even have to milk your damn cows yourself.
Well, still, you got... The thing about that is... Okay, so when we talk about technology, the problem with that is that you get that piece of technology, and you know what it does?
Tell me.
It allows you to get twice or 4 times the amount of cows that you have. You're still working the same amount. You're just doing it more efficiently. In the sense that like a corn farmer can go out right now. A single man can raise 2,000-3,000 acres by himself. But he has to do that because corn prices are so low. That's the amount of land that you have to farm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems like it's like this weird progression of like the technology comes along to like take some of the work away, but what it does is it just makes you get more cows or more land, and you just farm more because that's where like it's like the progression of it. Like for instance, back in the day, one man. That's why like around here it's pretty common to have like a 200, 300 acre farm.
Right.
Because back in the day,
That's all you can manage.
late 60s and early 70s, that's all with the
You
technology
was
that
lucky
they
if
had.
you had a tractor, dog.
Yeah.
I
Well-
know my people were lucky if they had a tractor.
That's what I'm saying. You had a 10-foot corn planter and a 10-foot disc. It's hard to cover. It's hard to cover more than 300
Yeah.
acres with that.
Yeah.
And even here, the reason that this community prospered back in the day because of the type of farming that they did. Like my grandfather said, you could raise your tobacco on your good ground. Because here in Henry County, it's a little rough.
Yeah, we got a lot of hollers.
Yeah, this is definitely holler land.
Yeah.
So, on a farm like this, like we're sitting on right now, you probably got 20 acres of real good ground. That's
These
a good tobacco.
hilltops.
That's a good tobacco. Yeah, right on top of them ridges.
Hilltops.
Them
boy.
ridge
And
fields.
believe me, Papa had every hilltop on this farm just covered in the most beautiful tobacco you ever seen.
See, and that's where it really worked on these farms because you could raise your tobacco up here on your good land, and like Papa said, you could graze your cattle, graze your
Yes.
dairy cows down in the hollow.
Yeah, on them sides of them hollers.
And he
going
was like, you
down.
can make a good living doing that.
And see, the good thing about that, like the side of the hill, water's running down. You know, that is good land to graze.
Well, like he said, the dairy paid for the mortgage because it was cash flow. That's what a dairy is. Dairy is it's a steady check every month. It's like a job. You get that check. You pay the bills with the milk check. The tobacco was like the money that you went out and bought a car and you sent the kids to school and you went on vacation with, and you paid for a barn or you paid for the things that you.
your greenhouse, paid off your
Yeah.
tractor, your
Yeah.
mortgage, yada yada.
Well, see, that's what. But that's the
All
thing.
the bills, yeah.
The dairy covered the mortgage and the electric and the water, the bills that came every month.
Yeah.
And that was a really good system. But in today's world, it doesn't work. Because in today's world, the world we live in now is row crop. Row crop is king right now. And
I put a video on TikTok the other day about the difference between a small farm and a big farm, and how and they say a big farm is a farm that makes less than $350,000 a year before expense. So, and you could that's
a big farm?
Yeah, no, that's a small farm.
Okay,
under that. But I was saying that you could even look on Google Maps and see the way that big farms bully the land. They don't work within their ecosystem.
Because they don't own it. The thing about the way most row crop farmers work today is, hell, some of them don't even own land. They lease everything.
Lease it, yeah.
And it is just a numbers game. It is a pure numbers game. Now, I'm not saying that corn farming is not hard and that side, like, that's a whole different animal. No, it is structured. It is structured. Like, I can go out here, I can go up to FSA and get some loans, buy a planter, and start corn farming. And I can probably make it. They have pretty much made it, not foolproof, but it's possible. Because there's so much support there, because the government wants it to be. They want commodities. So, that's why here in this county, which was never a row crop county, you're seeing half of it wash down the creeks.
Yeah, everywhere you go, there's nothing but soybean and corn. And you'll see drenches in the middle of their fields.
No, you'll see these creeks bleed. What I tell people is like, when a heavy rain comes through Henry County, you'll watch them bleed. You watch these farms bleed because of the soil running off of them. I mean, you can go down to these creeks on a hard rain, especially over where I live in Smithfield. See, Smithfield's like a weird area, because it's like not too rough to corn farm, but it's definitely not something you can row crop every year.
Flat ground out there.
And that's the problem, is it's like, it's possible. That's the problem. Like here, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time making some money with some corn. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because to me...
We're over here toward, like, Trimble County, Kentucky. We got some big old hollers, boy.
And this is my view on that. One of the things that I have come to realize is that no matter where you live in the world... Now, granted, if you live on the equator, it's different. But basically, this farm has the same amount of sunlight hit it as the 200 acres in Smithfield. It's all going to produce the same, but it's the way you do it. And the problem is that the way that the farming economy is structured, you can't make money here. Not unless you do something like you're doing here. Now this kind of neat niche farming where you're...
It's almost like a homestead in a way.
This is a homestead. That's the way I would categorize it. Yeah. It's definitely a homestead. Now, if you get bigger than this...
With plans to farm, though. I'm going to save this farm, Scotty. I promise you that.
That is definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. But, to me, this is not a way to save our county. Not everybody can do this. Not only because... not everyone has the opportunity to do this, but if everyone in Henry County did this, the sheep market would crash.
Oh,
because
right.
there would be it would turn into the cattle market. There would be so much competition that the price would crash.
Dude, I swear, ever since I got this is my first flock. Ever since I got sheep, I see more sheep everywhere than I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I mean, okay, so it was funny because when you were asking me months ago, like, how do I make this land make money? Which so many people have asked me, because there's so many people out here who have got a piece of land that they've inherited that they're like, what do I do with it? And when you came to me with the sheep thing, I was like, I hadn't thought about that. Now, I had done some research on sheep, but not very in depth. But when you sent me those prices that people are getting for these sheep, it blew my fucking mind. I'm like, there has not been anything in livestock, much less farming, that you can make that kind of money per acre. And
Yeah, because you can get 6 sheep an acre if you got some good grazing ground.
And hell, I looked at the prices the other day. I think they're selling for like 300 a hundredweight. That's a lot of fucking money, man.
Yeah, man.
I mean, fuck, cattle are bringing like what, 160 a hundredweight?
Yeah.
That ain't even enough to just break even on your best day. But the problem with it is that if everybody got into farming sheep in this whole county, I think there's like, don't quote me on this, like 160,000 acres in Henry County. We'd have a lot of fucking sheep. 6 times 160,000, that's a lot of fucking sheep.
Dude, I'll give you a crazy stat on that beef price since you brought that up. Beef prices are 25% higher, yet farmers are getting 17% less for their beef.
Well,
How are we supposed to feed them? How are we supposed to feed everybody if these multimillionaire farmers is...
but the price, that's the thing. So that follows inflation. It may have gone up 25%. In how long? What's the stat? What time frame we talking about? Because it may have gone up 25%, but the cost to raise a cow's probably gone up
Write that down.
100%.
Yeah, true.
Well, I put this out there. I was reading a book about raising cattle, and he was raising stockers, and this was in the mid-70s. He said comparably, now this was like 2004 he wrote this book, that in 1973 he was getting $2.80 a hundredweight. That is insane. You could make some damn good money at that kind of a price.
Yeah, somebody on TikTok told me that if you're not making money with today's prices, then you're not doing it right. Can you believe that?
I don't even know.
Dude, if you look at Google Maps and go to a rural community, it is literally growing up, especially around
Yeah. That's a good point.
Thick vegetation.
You know why? Okay, I'm glad you took it that way, because one of the things that I own 70 acres in Smithfield. And it is 70 acres of pure cedar trees.
It's thick, boy.
Thick.
You can turkey hunt that food.
And what it made me realize is how many farms in Smithfield are just abandoned. Just purely abandoned. And it blows my mind, because I'm like, this is a valuable piece of land that is nobody's using.
How many thousand an acre?
Not
Not to count your pockets or anything. Just give the example of the price.
Okay, so
per
there's
acre.
40 acres selling right next to me right now, and they're asking $8,200 an acre.
$8,200 an acre, people.
And that's for cedars. That's nothing but cedars. That's 48 acres of pure cedars. Thank you. I don't even think I finished my other one, dog.
Shout out to my beautiful wife bringing me a Dos Equis. Shout out to Dos Equis. I don't want to do any free advertisement, but man, that's the king of beer.
It is pretty good.
And it's just like, with the stuff we're talking about, how I said that 8% of farmers are under 35 years old. Dude, how is anybody supposed to start out? How is somebody supposed to get started? Is it even possible unless you've inherited land? Because if you're trying to farm and you have a mortgage on your farm, dude,
There's no way.
I feel bad for you.
So
That's
the way that basically the conclusion that I've come to, the only way that I'm going to make it farming is to keep a full-time job. Now, granted, I could sacrifice a lot and just barely fucking make it and just live like right on the line of poverty and maybe make it. But, I mean, that might, I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to do that. The conclusion that I've come to is basically the way it's structured right now, and I'm talking about cattle because that's basically all I can get away with in Henry County, is the cows will pay for the mortgage, and that's about it. They will pay for the mortgage, but that's a thing. Cattle are a wealth accumulation.
That's why you don't ask
They
farmers how many cows they got. That's their damn retirement in that field.
Well, what I'm saying though is basically cattle farming has came to the point where it is just a way to acquire wealth. Because basically my cows will pay for the mortgage, and that's it. They won't pay much else. And that's a stretch, honestly, because most of the studies that I read, you're basically making like $100 a head if you're lucky. And that's what that old boy is talking.
You're kidding me, $100 a head.
That's the UK studies, is $100 a head. And that's if you're doing it all right. Most people are breaking even.
What's the most valuable source of food? Whether you're a vegetarian or you eat everything.
Meat?
Protein.
Yeah, protein. You're great. You're right.
Protein. And you're making $100 a cow. You're raising an animal that weighs how many pounds?
Hell, 12 to 1,800 pounds, easy.
And you're making $100 off of it. And it took you, how long does it take from
It takes a
birth?
year. It takes a year.
You make $100 off that. So, if you have 30 cows, you make $3,000.
That's what I've told people.
Dude.
People coming at, I've told you this. Back when you asked me how can I make this farm make some money? And I'm like, well, if you put cattle on it, you could probably get 60 head on this farm. 80 if you're really doing your job.
And that's I got 2 jobs, and so I can't be really doing my job.
Exactly. That is a great point, because $8,000 an acre, or $8,000, that's not a lot of money for a full-time job, dog. That's not a lot of money to fucking beat your ass off every day. Dude, I'm like, fuck.
But you know what part of me does it for? And I bet part of you does it for? It's my papa.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a lifestyle. You're trying to keep this tradition alive.
My Mimi does not get out of the house. And she says, I cannot wait for you to finish your house so that I can come over there and see everything you got going on. Dude, it is embedded in us to farm. We feed the world. Not me and you don't per se feed the world, but people alike.
See,
and I know that mostly the 10% of farmers who are they have thousands of acres are the ones actually feeding the world. But
well, this is the thing. Here in Henry County, basically what this farming economy has became is a hobby. It's something that you come home and you do after work. Most everybody I know who farms nowadays has a job. Has a job that subsidizes their farming. That's what I tell people all the time. It's an addiction almost. It's something I go to work every day to feed my farming addiction. It's this thing that beats me up every day, that pushes me away from my family and costs me a lot of money at the end of the day. I mean, my parents are a prime example. My parents make good money. Good money. And I lived in a trailer for 12 years.
Shout out Trailer Life.
Yeah.
Any house I ever lived in, you could have punched a hole from the outside in, bruh. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, is that we basically sacrificed. Now, granted, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it because it's made me who I am, and I think it's made me a stronger person. But the thing is I wouldn't put my kids through that.
Dude, but you want to know something I've noticed now that I've gotten into it? Because, I'll give you a little background. So, I mean, my entire life, tobacco. If I wasn't in school, I was helping my papa raise tobacco because I was his right-hand man, he called me. I was his sidekick. So all I ever knew was farming and school. And then, I guess in probably 2013, that last year we was raising tobacco, we only raised the plants. Because
I was there for that.
Yeah, you helped.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only way my papa could make any money.
That's where the money is, though, is raising the plants.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to tell you right now, if y'all listening, the way you make money farming is you sell stuff to farmers. That's how you get rich.
Yeah, for real.
You sell the fertilizer and the tractors and the plants and everything that goes into
Get
it.
out of the county, go up to the city and save some maters, Bubba. Save some plants.
Well, if you see what's happening in this county, most everybody is, if they ain't working and farming at just a day job, they're selling something to the farming community. They're supplying like tractors and fertilizer and things like that.
Right. But where I was getting to is knowing that not only have a full-time job, and I'm not like giving myself flowers or anything, but that I also am responsible for, a flock of animals or herd animals, and I got a garden, some dogs, chickens, things of that nature. Like, I'm really proud of it. I don't know if that's just like been embedded in me because that's where I come from, or if it's innate in humans.
This is the thing.
I'm so proud of it, even though it's so small, dude. I take so much pride in it.
The reason I do it, some of it's pride, but mostly it's because I'm keeping this tradition alive.
For your family.
Well, not for my family, but
Okay.
just because I don't want to see it die. Like, it is. I've heard stories my whole life about the way this place used to be.
Man, them 70s,
And that
when our parents were young.
that is okay. So that's the thing that has drove my parents their entire lives. My parents are home baling right now, working till fucking dark. That's all I've ever known.
They also
Work,
have full-time
work,
jobs.
work. It's. I mean, you know it. You know how we are.
Yeah.
It's literally like some kind of sick fucking passion.
Let me tell you what, you and your family are some of the most determined individuals I've met. I really look up to all of you all.
And one of the things that's made me the saddest with that farm is we've been 5 generations on that farm. That piece of land.
5. Think about that, people. 5 generations.
And the saddest part is my dad has kept it on a lifeline. He's kept that thing on life support for basically the past 30 years.
And he does that because that's what his people did.
Well, he does that because he don't want to see it die. But the problem is that guess who that passes off on to? I will be the one. I will be the last generation to see that. I will be the one that it ends on.
You won't because you love it too much.
I do, but I'm telling you, I am so close to giving up. I am so close, people. I am.
Even on a small scale.
But see, that's the thing.
That's almost like how Tyler Childers says about the coal mine. That's what they was bred to do. Dude, we can't give up. 8% of people are our age.
I know,
I'm
but listen,
27.
listen.
He's 28.
It is, but the problem is where it's. I don't want to be this oddity. Like, the problem I'm having with Smithfield right now is the fact that, by the time I'm 50, I'll basically I'll be an island.
It's going to be Yuppieville.
I'm going to be an island in a sea of houses. And that's the thing. It's going to be like this fucking relic that people drive past and like, hey, look, there's a farm. Look, there's a farm.
And then you're going to see how all of them houses have about 5 acres. They'll have them a chicken coop and a pool in the backyard.
Okay, so it really... I work at the post office. And for a long time... Not for a long time, really. But a couple years ago, we started what was called Amazon Sundays. And they would send us to LaGrange, which is the bigger city right next to Smithfield. It's in Oldham County, which is a suburb of Louisville.
Yeah,
and driving through, I've always went to LaGrange my whole life, been in that whole place, but I had never really got to see the interior of Oldham County.
Right.
And it's like a skeleton. You can see, I would drive up into these subdivisions, and there in the middle of it would be the old farmhouse and a silo and a barn, and just houses as far as you could see, and you could just picture what that farm used to look like, and the pride that person had about that land, and see the struggle, and see the point where they just gave up because they couldn't compete anymore. They were at a point where they weren't making money, and they could sell their land for a couple $1 million.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day,
13th richest county in Kentucky. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, shit, I'm not surprised it's the first. Are you sure it's not the first?
Dude, that's an old stat. I've remembered that.
I'm pretty sure Oldham County is number motherfucking one.
Dude, it could be.
Because it is the suburb of Louisville. It is you know what blew my mind, man?
Go ahead. Tell me.
We have always lived on the rich side of Louisville.
I've always been poor.
Yeah, well, that's because we're like the outside where all the poor people live. All the rich people live closer.
Right.
But go to the west side of Louisville. Go down to Bullitt County outside Dixie Highway and all that.
farmland.
No, not farmland.
Used to be.
No. Used to be, yes. But what the point I'm trying to make is that we live on the ritzy side. You go down Springhurst, Oxmoor, you see some fucking houses down in there. There's money up in there.
That other side, they're
That
struggling, just like how.
well,
we
they're
are.
just everyday people. I'm not saying anything bad about that side. Those are
Right.
just workers. They're just people that work in a factory, work in a place. They just work in Louisville.
That's just
the people that live.
taking care of your families, Admiral. It doesn't mean it. If you work for Walmart, God bless you.
That side of Louisville, the east side of Louisville, that's the money side.
Yeah, all the malls.
All the money.
Chick-fil-A. I'm talking line to the interstate.
Yeah.
You want to go bowling? Go there.
And I never really thought of that. As a kid, we'd go to fucking Oxmoor. We'd go down to Springhurst. Go to the fucking go to the Alamo.
Twice a year or something like that.
Yeah, go down there and
we're
see.
lucky, dude.
Well, I mean,
And-
hell, I live 20 minutes from
And
fucking
trust me,
Oxmoor.
my parents weren't stopping at Red Robin, dog. We just get school shoes and we was out.
See, and that's what we're competing with.
Man.
And that's a hard thing to compete with.
Well, that article you sent me the other day about what they predict the population, how it's gonna rise by 2050 or whatever. That sounds crazy.
12 billion people.
Man. And
We have to increase
are
our-
less than 10% of the farmers still gonna be ruling the market?
Yes. I'm going to tell you right now,
Dude, so-
where we are headed, as of right now, we are headed towards consolidation. These farms will not be owned by individuals. Most of the good land, we're talking the I states, Indiana, Illinois,
The I
Iowa.
states. I never heard it put like that. That flat land.
That's that.
Hey, shout out to y'all. Y'all feeding America. Thank
They
you. God
are.
bless
They
you.
are. That's a corn belt, man. That's the
Man.
fucking powerhouse of the
Dude,
world.
Grain even feeds our animals.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Hey, I know that on my TikTok I've gave big farms a little bit of things, but trust me, I respect you. We're feeding the world. I know you're doing it on a bigger scale, but hey, we all have the same goal. Go ahead.
Well, they're only doing what they got to do to survive.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I have nothing against the corn farmer trying to make a living, because guess what? I'm going to tell you.
He's
The
doing
real-
what we wish we could.
Exactly. That is a good point.
It's
I'm
almost
going
like
to tell you right
looking
now.
at LeBron James. Yeah, I like shooting some hoops, but
The thing is that they are the true last farmers in America. Those people that live in the corn belt, that is true farming.
what percent? Because I had trouble finding this. Because I don't know if you've noticed, dude. I'm ADHD, a little bit of OCD. I love numbers.
I'm right there with you, dog.
What percent do you think, just an educated guess, actually produces for America, like or for the now that it's globalized for the world? What percent of farmers do you think are actually feeding the world?
I'd say between 2 and 5%.
2 and 5%, Scotty.
I mean, that's a guess.
Dude, okay, so let me. What if their crop goes bad?
Okay, this is
Dude,
why. That's why
not?
that you
Let's
brought.
go there.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, because it's something I thought about a lot today.
What happens if one of those farmers with
No, no, no,
10,000
no.
fucking acres?
So this goes back to, okay, if we want to talk about row crop farming. So a lot of people give it shit because it's basically like the biggest land control system that the world has ever seen. Yeah. And one of the things that people go on about is the GMOs. Roundup Ready corn.
Expound.
So everybody has a huge misconception about the problem with Roundup, herbicides and things like that, GMOs. They focus on the wrong things. The problem with those things is not that it's poisonous, it's not that it's going to cause cancer and all these other things that everybody attributes to those kind of farming practices. My grandfather, on my dad's side, had to sell his farm a few years ago. And they cut the house off, cut 26 acres off with the house and the barns. And these organic, gonna save the fucking world farmers moved in. I don't even know if you call them farmers. I mean, their heart was in the right place.
Hey, dude.
But the people that were running the land, because it was 240 acres.
If you have respect for your surroundings and the thing that live in it, nothing's wrong with that. Go ahead.
So, the Laffertys, who run the ground, were up there spraying. And they run out there and fucking threw a big-ass fit, you know. You fucking... you know, what do you call it? Like factory farming motherfuckers. like
so brilliantly.
And you know what they told him?
What's that? What they told
He
him?
said, "Jenny, this is how you feed the world.
What he
There ain't
told him?
nobody. You ain't feeding nobody doing what you doing with your 26 acres raising fucking organic blueberries and shit. This is how you feed the world." And he's right. You don't feed 8 billion people doing what Joe Salatin and everybody does. You just don't fucking do it. It's a pipe dream. There's no fucking way it's ever gonna happen.
I imagine he made a lot of his money off of influence also.
Well, no, okay. We're gonna take another tangent.
Love him.
No. Joe Salatin, Greg Judy and all them, they are highly skilled people.
Absolutely.
Fucking top of their game. I would take nothing away from those people.
Absolutely.
They have taken what we dream of to the fullest extent.
They teach us. I stay on their YouTube.
Yes, I have learned more from those two people than I have learned from anybody.
Absolutely. Hey, Joe Salatin, God bless you.
But
Greg Judy, God bless you.
You don't feed the world doing it. You don't feed 8 billion people doing
I like
it.
the idea of that.
Yeah, it's a pipe dream. It is fun to think about.
You know I am a dreamer. You always tell me
Oh,
I'm
damn,
crazy.
dude, I took your thing.
No, dude, rub me another one.
So,
Talking about cigs, by the way. He's in this rolling his own cigs kick.
hey, it
Hey,
is
shout out to Kentucky Best.
from the motherfucking Minute Mart. Hey, I'm gonna tell you right now, I love the Minute Mart. It's convenient, but don't trust them. Never rely on the Minute Mart. Every time I go to get gas, their pumps are broke. There was a man. There was a
Most
guy.
of the time, grocery bags are on that gas pump.
Yes. Okay. You know what's funny?
Go ahead.
The funny part is I'm up there buying this shit today, and there's a man out there working on the fucking pumps. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you guys, those are brand new pumps. What are y'all doing?
He had to buy menthol.
It's all they had. That's all they had.
Big bag too. It looked like a bag of sugar.
It's a fucking pound, dog. It's 16 ounces.
Hey, shout out to the tobacco farmers. I hope they buy from Kentucky. Do you think they do?
I mean, if they put that name on there, I
hand
would
me
hope
that
so.
thing. Let's see. It don't say only allowed in the
No,
United
the biggest thing on it says, warning, this product contains nicotine.
Nicotine
It's half the fucking bag.
dude. I know y'all always talk, maybe not talk about, but wondering why I got black shit in my teeth. Dude, shout out Bobby Stoker's, another Kentucky product. Let's go! Hey, and you know what? I'm sipping on Buffalo Trace, dude. You want to talk about a smooth whiskey? You put this on ice.
I know I forgot my ice up there, dude.
Hey, dude, I've been sitting here sipping it.
So, I don't even know what we
So
were talking
good.
about. What were we talking about?
It doesn't matter. Let's reroute. Okay. So
No, I was going somewhere with that.
Well, dude, you know I'm feeling pretty good. I don't.
Oh,
I
man,
can't-
come
dude,
on,
you
come
know
on.
me,
Work with
dude.
me, work with me,
I'm
work
pretty
with me.
good at reading your mind and memorizing things, but hey, I'm also pretty good at drinking beer, boy.
Okay. We were talking about the Minute Mart. You brought up the fucking menthol shit.
Oh, and Kentucky products.
Okay.
We don't get much respect here in Kentucky. I don't know why.
Yeah, we've always been a little backwards. But, okay, we'll take it back to I don't know where I was going with the previous conversation, but
Minute Mart, how unreliable they are, and how they always got
but
$1
they are
for bags on it.
they are convenient. They're always there when you need them.
I know your ass gets their soggy ass tater tots every day.
Not every day, just when I need it.
Yeah.
But
Thank you, Bubba.
the basis of what I was trying to say is that corn farmer was saying you don't feed the world doing what you're doing. Oh, we were talking about Joe Salatin and all that.
Yeah, and Greg.
So, I believe in what they're doing. But the problem is that you don't feed 8 billion people doing what they're doing.
Oh, but you got a part in it.
Yeah, but you, listen, you're catering to those people in Louisville, those lawyers and doctors. That's who's buying those products. It ain't the guy that you passing Henry County that goes to the Walmart and buys his food every day.
And see, I'm a dreamer, and this is why we're a perfect duo. I'm a dreamer, and Scotty is like
Realistic.
yeah, there you go. He tells me I'm crazy all the time, but I tell you what, I just love the idea of having purpose.
So where I was
It
going
might
with
be
the
a dream,
whole,
but I love having purpose, Ross.
where I was going with it, when you brought up the point of like, what happens when those farms go down? What happens to the world? This and that.
Yeah.
The problem with GMOs is not that it causes cancer and that it's genetically modified and all this. The biggest problem with it is that it creates billions of acres of monoculture.
And explain to the viewers what monoculture is.
Monoculture is just one crop, just hundreds of thousands of millions of acres of the same plant over and over and over again. And the danger in that is you're putting all your eggs in one basket. If we had some kind
of corn bug,
if we had a fungus or an insect or some kind of disease that broke into basically we live on 2 row crops, which is corn and soybeans.
Masonoid. I named it.
If something burned through all of that, how long would we last?
Dude, as much as we rely on corn, not long at all.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, though. The danger, I've tried to tell people this, like, they'll come to me and, like, they know that I deal with farming, like, my cousins and stuff, and we'll get to talking about it, and they'll talk about GMOs, and I'm like, no, you're taking it the wrong way. That's not the danger. Roundup don't scare me. I wouldn't drink it.
Wow, I see commercials about it.
Well, I'm telling you, it's no different. I'm going to tell you, it's like cigarettes, man. Cigarettes, everybody gives them shit. If you smoked anything, you smoked fucking sage 20, 30, 40 times a day for 30 years, you're going to have problems.
Yeah,
you're going to have problems.
The smoke's going to mess with you.
And with the row crops, with GMOs and everything, that's the danger. One of the best examples, and it's a movie, because I like watching movies, and movies always give you they're a really good way to explain the feeling of something. One of the best examples of that is if you've ever watched Interstellar. It's not a farming movie.
I have not.
You have to watch Interstellar. It's got Matthew McConaughey and all good. Hey, it's got good shit. It's a trippy movie.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like Matthew McConaughey.
So the basis of that movie, well, like I was going to say it's the basis, but it's a big part in it, is that they get a corn blight. They get a blight a blight is like a fungus, something like that infects the corn, kills the corn. And the problem is they had burned through every single last resort, and they were down to corn in the movie. In the movie, they were down to corn, and there was a blight that had broke out in the corn. And they couldn't control it. No matter how hard they tried, they could not keep it under control. And basically, the world was going to starve to death. And I'm going to tell you right now, one of the reasons that the United States government has such an emphasis on row crops is because if you keep people fed,
keep them fat.
You
Just
keep
like
them,
an animal.
You keep them fat and happy, dog.
The baby chicks I'm raising, if they get out of food, they tell me.
Well, okay. I'm going to tell you right now. We think that the world's fucked up as it is.
I think it is.
It is definitely fucked up. But I'm going to tell you right now, if the food supply became, if we had a problem with the food supply, this fucking party would get crazy real fucking fast.
I tell you what. So I started fasting, and something that I came to thought, I couldn't tell you before I started fasting when the last time I was hungry. Swear to God.
But see, I'm going to tell you right now. I'll tell a story.
Go ahead, sorry.
So, my dad's a pilot. Started flying when he was in his mid-20s. Left the farm.
Whipping them PJs.
Worked his way up through the whole deal. And he was flying with an old World War II POW. He was setting rights, I don't know. He was a co-pilot. I can't remember the terminology. But they were sitting there one day, and my dad made a comment, "I'm hungry." He was like, "Man, I'm starving." And that old man turned to him and said, "Boy, you ain't never been hungry in your life." And then he was like, "Well, damn, dog. What are you talking about? Like, I'm just making small talk here.
Yeah, I could use a cheeseburger.
And that old man was pretty much like, you wouldn't believe the things a man will do when he's hungry.
Dude, my grandpa's told me stories about a fox that got into my grandparents' chicken coop that I guess the story passed down. That they was struggling so bad where he wasn't making any money or anything. They was living off of their chickens pretty much. And that a fox that came in and killed a decent amount of them. And my Papa Vic, I don't know if he stood on the porch or whatever it was, started watching them multiple hours of the night in order to provide eggs for his family. Eggs.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, this old man told my dad, he said, you would kill a man over a maggot.
Oh.
Like,
Dude,
he talked about the fact that, we're talking about a World War II POW. This man was a pilot, a bomber pilot in World War II. I'm going to tell you right now, most of those people, most of those pilots got shot down. Most of those people were POWs in Germany. Now, granted, they didn't have it as bad. It wasn't like Holocaust situation, but I'm going to tell you right now, the German army was struggling, and they're going to feed their people before they feed the enemy's people.
Yeah,
and he said that you would kill a man over a maggot in a potato. Because guess what? That maggot tastes good because it was protein, man. You didn't get no protein because, like you said, protein's that thing that is the key. You got to have it.
It's almost like our sun, like to plants. It's like our sun.
Well, we're made of it. That's what I am, a sack of water and protein.
I'm a big old sack of it. So, dude, I have a couple. Can I ask you a couple questions? Because, Scotty is. I mean, he won't give himself any flowers because he's nice and awkward. But, like, he's probably the smartest person I've ever been there. That's why I wanted to do this podcast with him. So I wrote some questions to ask you, dude.
And I probably won't be an answer one.
Is it even possible?
I'm going to tell you right now. Wait, before we start.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm the type of person who has a general knowledge of a lot of things. But I do not know details. And I am not a smart person in the sense that, like, I don't have a lot of brain power. I'm just curious.
You want me to give you a fun fact? So, general, what's the first three letters?
G-E-N.
What's the first three letters of genius? Give yourself some flowers. I ought to plant a bed of
What the fuck does that even mean,
it.
dog? I don't even know where you're going with that.
Dude, I don't know. But anyway, I got some questions for you, Scotty. So, is it even possible to make a profit farming on less than 100 acres?
Yeah, if you do what you're doing. If you do direct market farming.
Expound. Well, I'm building my market. I haven't got it yet.
Let me tell you right now.
Talk to me, bro.
So the type of people that you see making a living on less than 100 acres are highly skilled, highly organized individuals.
Highly skilled and organized?
You ain't made it yet, dog. You just getting started.
You just sweet as can be. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The people that I've run into, so, for example, Kimberly and Blake. Blake has come from that world. He has basically, since he got started in life, done organic farming. Small scale, vegetables, direct market meats, things like that. Where the fuck you going, dog?
Get a beer. Go ahead.
So,
Kimberly and them was doing direct market sales.
damn, he left me here alone. So, basically, the people that I've run into in that world, through Blake, are highly intelligent people. Highly skilled, highly organized. The people who make it in that world, if they went out in the real world and went to college and got them a good job, they would excel. They would be people like CEOs. It takes an enormous amount of commitment to make money at that. I think a lot of people are learning that now. I think a lot of people are realizing that it's a lot harder than it looks. It is definitely not something you can just jump into. It's like Ben said. Everybody has this misconception that you can come out here and that farmers are just some slack-jawed idiot that just puts out a crop and harvests and sells it at the market, and they're fine. It's all good and dandy. But the problem is it takes a lot of skill to do that. One of the things that's left in this county, the people who are making it farming, that I've noticed, are the top of their fucking game. Because that's what it takes. This is not some uneducated thing that you can just jump into. It really isn't. What I have learned, and I don't think of myself that highly, but I feel like I'm a pretty well put together individual who works hard and is slightly intelligent.
Sick brag, bro. Nah, go ahead.
And it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Because you're not only you're dealing with such small margins. You're dealing
with your calves right now. You lost a few calves.
Oh, that's it. Dude, the stress.
The year banks on if your cows get scars or.
Oh no! Let me tell you.
Or just disappear.
The thing about it is like your margin for error is a very fucking small, very small.
That's why you have a good year, a bad year, a couple good years, a couple bad years.
But see, that's not even that is the tumultuous side of farming that a lot of people don't realize. But the thing is that you still, through all that shit, have to keep your shit together. You have got to stay organized. You have got to be smart about every decision you make, and you're still not guaranteed to do anything. The thing about it is, this is the point I'm trying to make. I have run into these people, like we're talking about the small farmers. Highly intelligent, skilled people. And they're barely fucking making it. Now granted, if that's what you want to do, and that you find pride in that, there's nothing wrong with it. But to me, we're worth a little more than that. If I'm willing to go out here and basically sacrifice everything, I should get a little more for it. And basically my whole gist of it is my dream is to be able to raise a family on a farm. To be able to buy land, raise a crop, sell it, and raise a family. That's not much to ask.
Is it even possible?
It is if you are, I'm going to tell you, if you are absolutely, you have to be not only a farmer, you have to be a mechanic, an accountant.
Sometimes an
electrician, a plumber. You have to be a market expert in the sense that you have to be a marketing expert, an advertise. You have to, one of the biggest problems I have with that side of farming, the direct market side, is that I'm not the type of person that can put myself out there. I don't have the ability to go on Instagram and post pictures of my farm and tell this pretty little story that everybody wants to hear. And another problem that I have with it, and this is nothing, I'm taking nothing away from it, but I'm not going to be this fucking clown that dances for the rich people in Louisville. I'm not going to be McDonald Farmer with my bib overalls dancing around for the rich people. Because that's the way I feel about that. I want to take my product to a market and feed people. I don't want to cater to these people that I have nothing in common with. There's no community in that. No, I am just basically. I'm getting
somebody down the street putting a whole cow in the freezer. Their daughter, that's their meat every night.
But to be successful under 100 acres, what you got to do is you got to sell yourself. You got to sell your soul to the devil. The problem I have with it is that I have to sell myself to the same people who are buying up all the land around me that I can't compete with. That will rip your soul out. I have to act like I like these people that come into my community and buy up everything around me because they have the power. I don't have the power.
Money is the power.
There's something morally wrong with that because I'm going to tell you right now, the main things I wanted to talk about was the fact that we're basically being gentrified out of our county. It happened to Oldham County. You know how many? Okay, so Victoria's people are from Oldham County. That's where they started. All of them. When I worked at the trucking company, all those people were from Oldham County. They all brought them with them. They moved to Henry County. And the reason why is because they had to get out. They were getting invaded. And one of the saddest stories that I was told was I was working with this old boy, worked with him every day. Grew up on a farm. Couldn't farm, couldn't make money. Got into pouring concrete. And he said, first thing we would do is roll into one of them old farms. One of them old dairy farms that got bought up. And cut it into half-acre lots. And that's all he did all day was pour foundations for these houses. And he got to be a part of the destruction of his community. And to me, I was like, of course, he didn't think that way. He was like, you know what? I made good money pouring concrete. But to me, what it said to me is that you were a front row seat to that. He told me stories about seeing them old dairy farms just get boned out, down to the skeleton.
Dairy could be arguably the biggest loss to farmers, maybe even in history. Let's talk about. Sorry to reroute you. How come nobody talks about how Walmart monopolized? Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Mr. Walton.
No. It has nothing to do with Mr. Walton. Mr.
Well,
Walton.
He's dead.
Mr. Walton actually was a pretty decent guy.
Well, hey, shout out to Mr. Walton.
So, before Mr. Walton died, before he got basically turned into a corporation, I don't know.
That's what happens when you get big.
So, Mr. Walton,
Them leeches.
you know, did you know this? That
Tell me.
his thing was only by USA made.
Dude, and that's
Walmart was a USA made place.
And I tell you what, I love, dude, whenever I pray every night, I thank God for this entire earth and all the people on it.
So, you know what's crazy?
But I have so much pride in buying things that were made by my fellow Americans.
So, my dad, being a pilot, he's got to interact with a lot of the upper class.
Yeah, you've told me stories. He sure has.
So he said that he's seen Mr. Walton a few times back in the day.
No way. You've never told me that. See, you got a fresh story
So-
every time. Go ahead.
He said that Mr. Walton, believe it or not, we're talking about a wealthy man, would come to the airport and get in an old janky airplane that he would charter in an old beat up pickup truck. We're talking about a motherfucking billionaire probably at that point. Said the man did not buy anything new. Drove around in an old beat up pickup
Dude, that's
truck.
how rich people are, too.
Mm-mm.
Like, if they got it themselves.
Yeah, if you built that,
You
yeah.
earned it, dude.
He motherfucking built
You
it.
counting popsicle sticks, saving them for damn chicken splints.
Because he fucking built it.
Yeah. He struggled to earn it.
But after he died, it all basically became what Walmart is today. And the biggest, I guess where we tie this back to the dairy thing is I can remember when it happened.
Dude, that was just like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago, something like that.
People were going on about
What
that
was
78-cent milk. That
78
fucking
milk.
7. I was like, you can't. Let me put it this way, people. You can go to Walmart right now and buy a gallon of milk for like $1, maybe less.
And a dozen eggs is $3.
You can go to Walmart and buy milk for $1, and gas is $4.30. Can you believe that you can buy milk cheaper than you buy gas? You could pull up to. They might as well just put it at the pump. Just pump it in.
A lactive engine.
That blows my mind that you can buy milk cheaper than you can buy gas. That doesn't even make fucking sense. How did they even get the fucking milk to the store for 78 cents?
Because it was strategic. It ain't 78 cents no more.
Oh no, you know why?
Because they was putting
Because
everybody
we
out.
have the dairy farming is a perfect example of corporatization of farming. There are farms out there right now. Let's say Fair Oaks Dairy. They have like 40,000 head. That doesn't even make sense to me. That number is so fucking far out that it doesn't even make sense.
But you want to know what sucks about 40,000 head? They're on, well, if there's beef cattle only making $100 a head. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm going to tell you right now. You know the crazy thing about Fair Oaks? My parents, we dairy farmed for a long time. And my parents went to a school in Wisconsin to learn how to trim hooves. Because that's a big problem with dairy farms. The basically one of the biggest problems you have with dairy cattle is the hoof. Because, you got a 1,600, 1,800 pound animal standing on concrete all day.
And on 4 hoofs.
Well,
supporting all that weight.
And you got them confined.
Yeah.
You're just asking for problems.
I actually hate that, but go ahead.
So my parents went to Wisconsin. They went to this hoof trimming school. And they were talking to this guy after just talking to him after the fact. And he worked for Fair Oaks before he started teaching school there. And he said, that place is a fucking machine. They milk 23 and a half hours a day. Shut down for a half hour to clean the system. He said...
Like a factory. That's exactly
it's like a factory. He said they literally... He started out in the cabin barn. He said, I shit you not, I delivered. He said, I would deliver a calf and turn right around and there'd be 2 more behind it. He was like, I probably delivered 200, 300 calves that night. Working a fucking 12-hour shift. So he was like, after about a month of that, he was like, I can't handle this anymore. It's just too much. So they moved him over to the feed side. He said he loaded feed for 12 hours a day. That's all he did was load feed. Just endlessly, like a machine, just like a conveyor belt, just feeding it.
Almost like putting coal in energy. In like
a furnace.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or a steam engine.
My dad said that when they were driving there, they had to drive past Fair Oaks, which is in northern Indiana, near Chicago.
Shout out to Indiana.
So he said when you drive past Fair Oaks, you start, and he said you drive for minutes. It's that fucking big.
Which meaning thousands of acres.
Well, it's just, this is what's crazy about the whole thing is that I don't know if they own they probably own thousands of acres because it's hard to put that kind of operation.
Yeah, rich people buy land.
But the thing is they're all owned, I'm pretty sure Fair Oaks is owned by some fucking investing group in Chicago. Like, this is not some farmer doing this.
So they're just paying people to farm for them. That's the only way you can make money
It
anymore.
is a true factory. But okay, the craziest part about it is he said that is one of the cleanest, most well-organized places he's ever been in his life.
They got the FDA coming.
No. He said they have got that down to a fucking science.
That's what happens when you have money to put into it. If you don't have money or resources to put into it, you can't do that.
Listen. That's not the point.
Okay, go ahead.
The point is that what's a better way to do it?
I mean, that's the best way to do it, or it wouldn't work.
That's the biggest problem I have with my life right now. These corn farmers, places like Fair Oaks, they are the most efficient way to make food. They don't even, at Fair Oaks, they don't even have a tank. They run that through a chill plate and put it straight on a truck. It does not touch a tank. It goes straight in the truck.
Well have damn
it is
under the ground.
Oh no! You know what's crazy? You know what's wild?
Go ahead.
This is such a crazy, like intersection of life. So I worked for an electric company for a year.
Yeah. Oh, I remember, dude. I didn't see you for a fucking year.
Yeah, it was bad. Sorry. It was something. So,
can I have one of those?
I worked for this electric company.
A chew and a cig.
In southern Indiana.
Yep.
And I can remember driving there every day. And every day I saw these fucking red trucks hauling these big ass tankers. And I'm like, what in the fuck are they hauling? Every day I'd probably pass 4 or 5 of them.
Milk.
And I was like, what in the fuck are they hauling? Every truck the same. It was a Ruan truck. R-U-A-N. I guess that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. So, I'm working for this electric company, and I'm the shop bitch.
Yeah, you're the organizer.
So I'm going through...
You gotta start.
I'm cleaning up the fucking shop. going through all the shit, organizing. And one day I'm going through blueprints. And I'm just, I'm curious. I like to look at shit like that because it's cool. Blueprints are kind of cool. Like, it's just wild to see, like, someone planned all this out.
Yeah, somebody a lot smarter than us figured it
Exactly.
out. Yeah.
It was pretty interesting. So I'm going through these blueprints, and I come across a Ruan fueling station.
Ooh.
And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? It's the same place. And you know what it said at the fueling station? A Ruan fueling station. And you know what it said at the bottom corner?
What did it say?
Fair Oaks Dairy. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That's what those trucks are hauling is fucking milk, and I mean motherfucking trucking that shit across the line.
They probably had a crew of trucks.
Oh, dude, I mean, I don't even know how many trucks they got.
So how is you, for instance, how was your uncle or your granddad or your cousin? How are they supposed to keep up with that?
You ain't.
So why, like, I love a free market. I love anything that has to do with freedom. Love it. But whenever somebody gets to that point, how can a small guy keep up with it? And what's scary about that is the small guy is a representation of a small community. How is a community supposed to keep up with that?
You're not. I'm telling you right now, it is not just us. So we're sitting here talking about farming. Do you know one of the things I compare us most to is the Rust Belt.
Like
is the manufacturing
Pennsylvania, Ohio. It's
like where Nick's from.
Yeah. Okay. Shout out to Pennsylvania. Shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
What you just said. Say it.
Steelers, boy.
What was that? That was the steel industry. Yeah. That was the Rust Belt.
They was building
the same thing that has happened.
Metropolitan America.
The same thing that's happened there is happened here.
Expound.
The globalization of the entire market.
The
same thing.
Of the
reason they
industry.
call it the Rust Belt is because all those factories are rusting.
And let me give you all an example of what kind of detriment globalization is. If I had 2 beers in the planet and you wanted a beer, you're going to pay more for it. But if I had 15 million beers, you're going to pay $1 a beer. And whenever that happens, the small guy who's trying to compete with somebody who is making millions of dollars controlling their farm from a smartphone you can't keep up with that.
But see, this is the thing. It's like we go back to what the corn farmer said to the organic farmer. Honey,
it just sounds like a joke.
Honey, you don't feed the world doing what you're doing. The problem is guess what? Let's go back to the milk.
I hate hearing that.
Let's go back to the milk. You know how many people I met that were just ecstatic that milk was 78 cents? They just were like running over top of each other to buy it. They're like, well, I'm never going to pay more than 78 cents for milk.
I'm going to buy 4 of them, put 3 of them in the freezer.
And that's the problem, is we want more cheaper.
Well, we're all fucking poor. The separation between the middle and the high class is getting bigger and bigger every day. Gosh, we rely on...
Well, yes. But I think I can pay a little more for 78 cents for milk.
Dude, hey, I'm all about that.
But then again, I'll tell you this. Me and Victoria do a pretty good job keeping up with our finances.
I bet you do.
So, before the pandemic, we'll get into this discussion.
Oh, man.
We were paying $150 every 2 weeks to go to the grocery. I had it down to a science. Our goal was every time we went to the checkout counter.
That's pretty efficient.
$150.
That's pretty good. $75 a week, feeding 2 people. That's good.
Now, I can't get out of the fucking store for $250.
Dude, I spent $130 today, and I was able to carry all my bags out with my arm. I swear. Yo, you need a lighter. Dude, I got more questions for you.
Whoa, wait. Before we go deep,
Okay,
we're getting way too far into the
I've been dying, dude. But you gotta realize that where I'm ADHD, I seen a meme today that said, "I don't know what an HD is, but I got 80. My doctor says I got 80 of them." But anyway, so I'm fucking crazy, and one thing that terrifies me is being a preposter, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Imposter.
Imposter. Thank you.
That's why I didn't want to do this. Because I don't feel like I have
No, dude,
the ability to talk about this. Because I am nobody.
And I'm a studier. I love, like, whenever I'm bored, I love to just like read articles and stuff. And for some reason, it's almost therapeutic for me to write. Like, I have multiple notebooks where I just write stuff. So I've been fascinating myself. So I'm excited to ask you some questions. But it's probably too far now where you forgot where you was even going.
Well, we'll talk about this real quick. So you put stuff down on paper. Whereas I'm the type of person who just burns through stuff. That's why I say I'm a generalist, because I don't really go too deep into something. I am curious about the world in general. Everything.
I'm a fanatic. I find something and fascinate.
Exactly. But see, I do that in short bursts. Like, my thing right now is geology. If y'all want to hear about the geology of Kentucky, I will tell you anything you want to know. It is so fucking cool. Kentucky is, I don't know about the other states. They're probably just as fascinating. But Kentucky is a geological wonder. It's a cool-ass fucking place.
Second in the nation in most navigable waters.
There you go. That's a good one.
Dude, I'm telling you, I for some reason, I've probably known that stat for 5 years. I couldn't tell you my brother's cell phone number, but for some reason, little random
See,
stuff.
that's what I was trying to say about being. I can't remember stats, but I can remember the feeling about something. Like, I could give you a general idea of what's going on here on this land, but I can't tell you numbers and stuff like that. I just know how I fucking feel about it, I guess. But if anybody wants to hear about some geology, I'll definitely...
Some geology! This is the Farming Now podcast. We're going to be talking about some geology.
Hey, geology has a lot to do with what we're doing right now.
Man.
Farming and geology are tied hand in hand.
You want to know another thing that farmers don't really... what's crazy, the misconception is that we're all stupid and can't read. Hey, you know what I mean? That's true, isn't it?
Let me tell you a story about that.
Oh, are you going to talk about your cousins?
Yeah, so...
Well, they probably can't hear you because you're peeing.
This ain't my best friend's cousin.
All right, well, hang on. Wait till you're done peeing so you're closer. Dude, you're in front of the camera.
Oh, damn, dog.
Hey, what's up? All right, go ahead. Go ahead and tell your cousin story.
Fuck, that's embarrassing.
No, it ain't. Not like I seen you, little Peter.
Fuck.
All right, go ahead. Your cousin's about the running water, remember?
So... I got some cousins that live down in Florida. They're like second cousins, I guess. I don't even really fucking know. I don't know them too well. But I can remember they come visit my grandfather's farm when I was 12 years old. And they truly believed we didn't have running water in Kentucky. I was like, what are you fucking talking about?
You told me that when we was 16.
It blew my mind. I was like, wait. I didn't know we were that backwards. Do people really think that out in the outside world? Do people really think Kentucky is that backwards?
Dude, I've been playing video games online for decades.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like I know just as much as you do about life.
They act like we don't have anything. Right now, I'm wearing some Asics. Shout out to Asics, dog. And some Duluth shorts. It's not like we're come up out of the hollers, deep breakfast, and come out to play and stuff. You know what I mean? We're just as civilized as anyone. That's a crazy misconception.
Hey, it blew my mind. It made me realize, wow, I guess
people think we're stupid. But dude, I have two of my questions now that you finished what you're talking about. Dude, is this technology's fault?
No.
Ooh. So we differ here.
See,
Expound.
See, technology. The problem with technology, okay. We live in a competitive world. And the problem is that it's like an arms race. If you don't adopt the same practice as the farmer next to you, well, then you fall behind. It's like an evolution. It is like evolution in the sense that if you don't adapt and do the same more efficient thing that the farmer next to you is doing, then you fall behind. Because, like, think when they came out with a tractor. You know what was wild? My great-grandfather, he didn't believe in tractors for a long time. He was like, a horse can do it better. But you know what?
What's
At the end of the day, old boy next to him was plowing 3 or 4 acres a day. And he didn't break a sweat. And my great-grandfather was standing behind that plow.
Yeah, riding like a damn.
Fucking working his ass off, lucky to get 2 or 3 acres done a day. And he was like, you know what? I can't do that.
Him and the horse was sweating.
So I don't think technology is necessarily the problem, because it's like, what do you do?
Well,
it's like the world we live in right now. Do you just stop?
Yeah, well, here's where I feel like you're confusing it. I'm not asking if it's fair, because in a free market, everything is fair. I'm asking is if that is part of the problem with our community.
Okay, but the problem with that is that then you would have to outlaw technology. Where do you stop? It's okay. Let me throw this example out there. I do a lot of dealings with the Amish community.
Shout out to the Amish.
And a lot of people wonder why they live the way they do. And I do not.
You don't wonder a bit, do you?
I don't wonder a bit, because I'll tell you right now, they're living the way they should be living.
Another one of those.
So, for a long time I had wondered, like, everybody acts like they hate electricity. Like, they just don't want to be part of the modern world.
They want to be off the grid.
But the thing about it is that they explained to me, and it blew my mind, the reason that they live the way they do is because it slows life down. That's the gist of it. It's not that they don't want to use electricity. It's not that they don't really, they don't want to be a part of the modern world.
Dude, I don't blame them.
Their beliefs is that...
Dude, my nephew came up to me saying bussin' the other day. I don't blame him.
And I agree with a lot of that. That's why I deal with them. I think there are some great people. And when people talk shit about them, I'm like, you know what? It's not necessarily that it's what they do. Because people always go on about, like,
and you know,
well, they use electricity.
I'm actually part of that, because sometimes I feel like they can contradict themselves.
Yeah, Ben's definitely one of the ones who's argued with me on this point.
Yeah.
Because I tell him, I'm like, you know, the Amish come over and when they were using power tools and fucking, they love jumping on a piece of equipment.
And I'm saying, oh, that's
and he's like,
Amish of them.
Yeah, he's like, well, they're fucking hypocrites. And I'm like, no.
I'm all about realness, though. I don't know, you might got the lighter.
The thing about it is, though, their philosophy is that living that way slows life down. To the point where, to me, what I've realized is that you can really enjoy it. You're not in this rat race all the time of like, I've got to stay ahead of the next guy. That competition, that endless...
Yours is, I wake up, I got a job to do, I do it.
Oh, my life is literally consumed by just trying to stay ahead. Trying to stay ahead of the wave. Trying not to drown every fucking day because I've got to stay ahead.
Does that make you happy?
No.
Then it is happiness.
Because I am just a fucking cog in the machine. I am caught up in this world that we all fucking live in.
A bee in the hive.
And yes, a bee in the fucking hive, exactly. That's the problem I'm having with it is that why do we have to move this fast? Why? Why do we have to do these things?
The globalization of food.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going back to that.
Well, but see, that's the thing. We're talking about farming right now. But farming is no different than any other part of the world that we live in. This is happening on every scale. The things we're talking about right now are no different than the things that people are talking about in logging communities, fishing communities, manufacturing communities. These are all the same things. Because to me, my belief is that we're moving too goddamn fast for our own good.
That separation between the wealthy and the poor is getting deeper and deeper. It's got a lot to do with what you just said, too.
Well, see, and I don't know. I have had that put to me many a time. But then again, it's like some people make good points to me is that, damn, can you fucking blame them?
I mean, the human nature is based off of ego and like
This is
and perspective of oneself to but to the other community.
this is my thing. We've just got too many people. We are all cutting the same piece of pie smaller and smaller every year. We're all competing. The pie is actually getting smaller, and we're cutting it even smaller. Like the same pie that we had in the 1820s is smaller,
Dude.
and then we're cutting it even smaller.
A great stat real quick, and this is from farmingaid.org. Farms with more than 2,000 acres nearly doubled between 1987 and 2012. When they said get bigger, get out, they meant it.
See, but they were only, that's what, okay, so we'll talk about the destructive side of farming. People and environmentalists blame farmers for the problems that they've caused. But what those people have to realize is that we're only doing what we have to do because we have to compete. We have to survive.
People have to mind their land.
That's
people
the thing.
People can't afford cover crops.
That's exactly
to take care of their land.
So that's what I'm trying to say, though, is we're sitting here talking about row crop farmers, but you know what?
They're doing it right.
They're doing what they have to do to make money.
Because they don't want to give it up either.
Well, it's not even that. It's just you got to compete. You have to compete.
In a free market, yeah.
Now, granted, I'm going to tell you right now, some of the stuff I've read, I get quite a few farming magazines. Most of them are centered around large-scale row crop farming. And there's some people out there doing some amazing things. That's what I was trying to tell you with Fair Oaks. The way we're headed is towards this large-scale agriculture. And at the end of the day, if we get it right, it will be the most environmentally friendly, the most efficient way to make food.
But this is where I come back to technology.
But this is the problem. This is the thing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Can you afford to buy a corral for your cows right now?
No.
Can you afford, if you was a dairy farmer, could you afford a robot tit sucker?
Okay, well, slow down. Yes, if I had 500 head.
But
I was
how
milking.
realistic is that? How much money do you have
Okay,
to be
so let me
worth
put
to
this.
even get over 500 acres?
Let me tell you a story
500
about my
acres
parents.
is over $1 million worth of land now, Ross.
Oh, easy.
Dude,
but that's
how
the
can
thing.
somebody
You
do
have
it?
to ride the wave. You have to stay competitive. You have to stay ahead of that. Okay, I'll tell you a story about my parents.
Go ahead.
So, we got out of the dairy in 2005. And it destroyed my parents to do it. But the reason we got out is because Kroger came to us. We had a contract with Kroger, and it ended in 2004.
I didn't know that.
Had a contract with Kroger.
Shout out to Kroger.
Kroger buys DFA milk. Really good place to buy your milk.
Hey, shout out to Kroger.
Really fair. But
some people put an S on that.
the problem, Kroger's. The problem with that is that Kroger has to compete with everybody else.
Absolutely. It's a free market.
So they came to my parents in 2004, and they basically said, we won't renew your contract unless you double your milk production. And my dad was like, there's no fucking way.
You'd
There's
have
no
to
fucking
double
way.
your infrastructure, which
Exactly.
is money.
That's what the thing that was, the worst part about it is by the time 2004 came around, that dairy was ticking. It was moving. They had it down to a science. My parents, as many problems as I have with them, my dad is a very intelligent person, very organized, very hard-working.
Very well-read, just like you.
And they basically brought that farm off its knees. When my great-grandfather died, my great-grandmother had Alzheimer's. And they had to keep her in the rest home. And I didn't learn this till a few years ago. And my dad always blames my granddad, for basically losing the farm. But he struggled through the 80s farm crisis.
Yes.
And then on top of that, had to pay all the money to keep my great-grandmother in the nursing home because she had Alzheimer's. I mean, what do you do with somebody? So, by the time my great-grandfather died, that farm had an enormous amount of debt. And all the kids, there was 5 of them, got together and decided they were going to cut that farm up. They had it platted off into 26 plats.
Golly.
And had it on the chopping block. Like, Barry H. Smith was there ready to auction that bitch off.
Yeah.
And my dad went, he was determined he was going to save that farm. And that's one reason my family has struggled so hard. Even though my parents have made good money, they paid. You got to realize in 1997, they paid subdivision prices for that farm. The only way that that my dad's family, his aunts and uncles would let him buy that farm is if he could match that price. That is saying something. When my parents' farm sold in 97, they bought it. It was the highest price any land had ever brought in Henry County. And to make that work, it was insane. And the worst part of it is that the 4 siblings who weren't on the farm, my grandfather stayed there. They cut him completely out of it. They actually made him pay something in.
And he's the one that owned it.
He's the one that stayed there. My great-grandfather owned it. But my grandfather stayed on the farm, sacrificed basically his entire life to stay there and keep it alive. And by the end of the 90s, that farm was gone, basically. Like my dad always says, there wasn't a bit of fence. The barns were falling down. It was on its knees. They had been farming since 1951. They had been dairying since 1951.
Been farming for centuries.
Yeah, farming since I could. Hey,
ever since it's been like the stories my grandpa got from his parents that he got from his parents.
Hey, it's like Joey said.
Every one of us were farmers.
It's like Joey said. All the way back to Denmark, dog. I'm the heir to the throne.
Let's go.
But that was an enormous hill that my parents had to scale. They had to. My dad double cropped tobacco. Double crop 50 acres of tobacco and sold it on the black market to make it work because they had no options.
Yeah.
They had a mortgage that they had to pay for top dollar land that didn't make money. It took everything we fucking had to make it work. I'm going to tell you right now, man. Those first...
Your 8-year-old ass was out there helping them.
My earliest memories are of struggle, or of pain, of just literally... My dad tells stories about falling asleep on the fucking tractor at night. I mean, it was pure just grind. And by 2004, they had it. They had it where they wanted it. They had that dairy making money. They brought it off its knees. They turned it into a real fucking dairy. And one of the saddest stories that my dad tells is that they had an old milk truck driver named Bob.
Yep.
Bob picked the milk up every day.
Shout out to Bob.
And my dad said he'd come in one day, pick up the milk. He'd tell Bob that they were selling out. And he said Bob had to leave. Had to walk out of the parlor because he was in tears. Because he said, if you guys can't make it, it's over. Because Bob grew up in Owen County. Grew up on a dairy farm. And all he ever wanted to do was dairy farm. But he couldn't make it. So he started driving a milk truck. He wanted to stay.
A part of it.
To be exactly. To be a part of it. And the point I'm trying to make is that even at that point, to Bob, that farm was like the showpiece of the dairies in Henry County at the time. My parents really did make something of it. And when they told him that he had to sell out, he was like, if you all can't make it, there's no fucking hope. There's no way that this can happen. And that's what my parents, they debated for a year. In 2004, the contract ended, and for a year, till 2005, whether or not to just jump in, buy more land, and get that new contract to double the milk production. But basically, the conclusion after they ran all the math was, it's just we're going to have to struggle harder than we struggled to get to this point to make that work. And it was like, at the end of the day, what are we really gaining? What are you getting out of that?
You know, you bring up the 80s farm crisis.
Well, see, wait. I wanted to make a point.
Go ahead.
So, Megan, who's my sister,
Yeah.
she's just as involved in farming as I am. She's bigger into the, like, she went to college for it and all that. Well, she had to do a study on dairy farms. And on our block, there in Smithville, like our block, like the road goes around the land. I'm not talking about like a city block.
Yeah.
The road that goes around. There were 8 dairy farms.
Wow.
In the 80s. 8 in that small. I mean, we're talking about 2 square miles. There was 8 dairy farms. My parents were the last one. Right now, I shit you not, I bet you there are maybe 2
Dairy farmers in the county.
in the county. There were probably hundreds.
And our county's pretty large.
Yeah, it's
We
big.
have a lot of land here in the county.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying though. Is that, I mean, both sides of my family dairied. That's all they ever did. I mean, that was a lifestyle. And I'm going to tell you right now, if there has ever been a farming lifestyle, it's being a dairy farmer. Because I'm going to tell you, you are 100% committed. It is twice a day, 365 days a year. I can remember Christmas morning, my parents getting up at 4 o'clock, going out and milking and coming in for Christmas and then going right back out to it.
What about when your dad,
What
about when your dad had a stomach bug?
Oh, I'm going to tell you right now. My dad broke 2 arms during the dairy.
Right.
2 arms, worked a job and dairied.
No excuse.
And I mean, I can remember that man sitting at the kitchen table cutting a cast off because it was getting in the way. A month early. I'm going to tell you right now,
4 weeks.
the man's fucking wrists do not turn to this day.
He had milks to cow.
I can remember him sitting at that fucking kitchen table with a big ass steak knife cutting that fucking cast off because it was getting in the way. And you know how he broke that arm? First time he broke it, fell off a fucking freestall barn in the middle of winter trying to put it together because it was icy, fell off the freestall barn, hit a fucking skid loader, broke his arm. Still went to work, flew an airplane, and come back and fucking run the dairy. And then the second time he broke his arm, the vet was over. They were trying to get a cow up in the sick barn. Yeah, they were trying to get a cow up in the sick barn. Cow got him pinned up against the wall, and you take 1,800 pounds and slam it up against the wall. His arm got caught between that cow and that wall, and it shattered it. And you know what's crazy? So Muncie, the vet in Henry County, Kentucky, was like, Doug, I think you broke it. And my dad's like, no, I think it's okay. And he was like, he said he was sick, like literally about to throw up. And Muncie's like, I'm telling you, I think it's broke. You need to go to the office and get it x-rayed. So he goes to the vet office in Henry County, the Henry County vet, and gets it fucking x-rayed at the animal vet. And they're like, yeah, dude, your arm is fucked.
He shattered.
Yeah.
Man. Dude, that's crazy. But you talk about the farm crisis. Let me give you a crazy stat. Let's see. Okay, this is from Time Magazine. And, you know, I'm not saying they're non-biased or whatever, but it's a pretty credible magazine as far as popularity goes.
Yeah.
Where's this at?
Come on, dog. Dig it.
Let's see. Sorry, people, I'm reading.
Yeah, he's got a whole notebook of shit here.
Okay. So, in 2019, this is before COVID. So, this is not using COVID as an excuse. In 2019, farm debt hit $425 billion. And I misspoke. This is by farmaid.org also. I'm not talking.
Okay, so
That's just shy of what it was in the 80s, which was at $440 billion. So just $20 billion shy of the farm crisis that you just talked about right now.
Wait, are we talking about like, is that 400 billion inflated, or is that like at that time? Was at that time it was 480 billion? I don't know.
I think they would They would probably have some sort of like breakdown to make it equal.
Yeah, to make it equal. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's what I mean about staying ahead of the wave. What my dad wants me to do, and the reason that we fell out is because he wants me to do like he did. Jump in head first into a pool of debt. Go out and buy a $1.2 million
Get big
farm.
so you don't have to get out.
Yes, exactly. He wants me to expand. And the problem I have with that is you're in, once you do that, you are in the rat race. You do not leave that. It's like my parents with the dairy. If you keep, it never ends. The thing like one of the points that my dad made about not expanding and getting out of the dairy is he's like, what happens in 5 more years when they say we have to double again? When does this stop? Are we going to live our whole lives this way? Just literally struggling. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Not to get ahead.
So
Keep up.
that's what. Yes, exactly. Staying ahead of that. It's like drowning. You just come up just long enough to get a breath of air, and then you go
tell
back
yourself
down.
Next year will be better.
And that's what I'm saying is they struggled so hard to get that dairy moving. And then literally, like at the moment they got it moving, here comes Kroger and says, you got to double. And my dad was like, so what happens 5 years from now when they come and say we got to double again? Where do we even fucking go? Because Smithfield...
It's closing in on you. Like
Exactly.
Island.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
There's 105-acre plots.
And that's one problem I'm trying to tell my dad is that it's like you said. When I describe all these things, all these problems that I'm having, and you're like, man, that sounds admirable, but what the fuck are you...
What's the purpose?
What's the purpose?
Is it worth the valor? Is it worth it?
I don't know. I don't think it is. Because especially with all the problems that we're having in Smithfield, we just can't compete. There are so many people moving out there who are just buying recreational property to ride their fucking razors around and shoot their guns. It is just a big fucking playground now.
Will it ever change? Does the world have to starve in order for something like that to change? Is there any way we could do anything different? Or if we could go through another recession, if that would reset it, like a great reset.
No.
We're just 10% of the farmers are going to be growing all of our food, and
It'll be less than that. Just think,
More
okay,
and more
every single, a lot of the articles I read now are about autonomous farming. Okay, listen. Everybody, we hear about like self-driving cars. And that's an extremely hard problem to figure out. But they're doing it. Tesla's doing it. Can you tell me how much easier it is to run up and down the row in a field and on a farm in Iowa? Whoa. If they can figure out how to drive a car down the fucking road and stop and start itself and go in intersections and avoid cars, I think that they can figure out how to run down a row and turn around and come back. That's not fucking hard. That's if they've got the Tesla figured out, they've got that
farm, especially row cropping, that is your job.
Well, let me put it this way. Yes. I'm going to tell you right now, even on this ragged ass land, most of the farmers don't even drive their fucking tractors anymore. You set it and forget it. I can remember when they started the whole GPS thing, the farm that sits in front of my parents. You could look down one row, and it's a mile, a true mile, from the bottom of that field to the top of that field. It's a big fucking field. You can look down one row and see the other end. That's a straight fucking row. I mean, you could set a level on it. It is straight. You could you could shoot a laser on the other side. And that changed it. That is insane. Because you know what that tells me? It won't be long before some guy can sit in Chicago at the Commodity Stock Exchange and just run his tractor on his 50,000
perfect roll of corn,
and then spray it, combine it, and haul it.
While he's drinking a tea and smoking a cigar, dealing with his daily trades.
And then you know what you got on top of that is that with this whole CRISPR thing.
Tell me what a CRISPR is.
So CRISPR is genetic modification.
Okay.
So they have. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, this is the biggest fucking breakthrough in so far in humanity.
Go ahead,
We
tell me.
talk about computers and we talk about all these different technologies that we have, but I'm going to tell you, CRISPR will change the fucking world. And I don't know if it's going to be a good or a bad thing. It can go either way.
Dang.
Because they have developed the ability to literally, like a game or a computer, make any changes you want in a genome. So up to this point, like that corn
Tell
sitting
people
right
what a
there,
genome is.
the DNA, the literally the fucking the build sheet for what you are. Okay. It's like the blueprints. Okay. It's like what your body it's like what your body uses to build you.
Right.
So up until this point, you know the way that we let's take this even farther back. I found my parents live in a house that was built during the Civil War. And we took it apart. It caught on fire. We had to redo the whole damn thing. And we're taking apart the staircase one day. Pulling all that shit off. Pulling them labs and that plaster off. And under the staircase is like a cavity. And over the past 170 years, there's been mice and shit that have dragged shit up in there. There were pieces of there were corn cobs that weren't as big as my fucking finger.
Because that's the natural way they were.
Yeah. So it was a big deal back in my grandfather's day to make 100 bushel corn. That was like, motherfuck, we made some corn. Now, if you ain't making 200 bushels, you wasting your damn time. So the advancements we made in that are crazy. But we know how we did that. We literally took a plant and we went through this whole field. Like we plant this field in corn and we find the biggest corn that we can find, the biggest ears, and we take that pollen off of that piece of corn, we put it on that other big piece of corn, and we make bigger corn. And that's just a slow, arduous, monotonous process. Breeding the corn by hand.
It's superior corn.
But now with CRISPR, you can go on a computer and you can tell that genome whatever it wants to do. You can make, I mean, as big as ears as this fucking plant can make. But that's not even the point. The point is that what that allows us to do is basically make whatever we want. We can make whatever fucking kind of... It's another piece of technology that allows us to stay ahead of the wave. Because like I said earlier, if we get a disease in this corn that wipes out an entire year's crop, it's going to get nasty real quick. But with CRISPR, we can genetically modify that plant to where it's resistant to that disease and stay ahead of that. And what that allows us to do is basically, with automation and CRISPR, man, you talk about efficiency and fucking farming.
Right now they have corn that is like the thing that they promote about it is that it's drought resistant. What is that? I mean, it don't need water?
Okay, you know where that comes from.
Tell me.
Some of the best land we got right now is irrigated land. Because, man, think about this. Think about this. Go out west. When you have irrigation, you go out like fucking Colorado, Wyoming, Arizona, California. You basically have a giant fucking greenhouse that you control. That's what so my parents, when we got out of the dairy, we started into the hay business. We started making horse hay with small squares. It was the most profitable. We had a lot of alfalfa left over after the dairy because that's basically, a dairy is just a big feed machine. That's all it is. And so we got into small squares for horses. But the problem is we are competing with these farms out west where they can just turn a switch on and water their crop. Whereas here, I've got to fucking deal with rain. And the problem with Kentucky is
good Lord, drown you today.
Well, it's a good and a bad thing because we don't have to pay for that water. That's one big.
We wake up every morning, our ground is wet.
Well, not every morning, but the thing is when it comes to making hay, you got to make dry hay. And the problem with that is that you got to plan between the rains. Out west,
which is unpredictable.
Out west, you know what you do when you want to cut hay? You turn the fucking water off and you cut the hay. And guess what? It's wild to me. Most of these hay farmers out west, they bale at night because it's so fucking dry during the day that it shatters. It's too damn dry.
Wow. There's no moisture in it.
No moisture. So you bale at night. You basically can bale till from the time the sun goes down till the time the sun comes up. And whenever you need to cut. The problem with alfalfa is when it starts to bloom, you're quickly losing quality. And the problem with that is it comes on every 30 days.
Ooh.
And at that 30 days mark,
You got a couple days
you
to
got a
play
couple.
with.
It's like, oh, I hope it don't fucking rain the next week.
Yeah.
And that is a hard line to walk. And the other thing is when it comes to like cattle, it's pretty easy to shove 50, 60,000 head on a dry lot. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when it's dry, you don't have as many problems with diseases and parasites.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they don't. The water is the source of life.
So if you keep it dry, you just do you know that
There ain't no worms in that.
some of
grass,
these
Bubba.
some of these feedlots, they are literally spraying water on these cows during the day because to keep the dust down and keep them, I guess, from overheating. I don't really know. I just know
1,200-pound animal and 120 heat index.
So
They need cooling.
that's why that drought resistant stuff is so important. Is because, man, if you can design a plant that'll survive in without less water, man,
But
that's
you see that. But then you point toward all the nutrition loss in our foods. Is it worth it? I guess food is better than no food, but
well. I'm gonna tell you right now.
shit, we don't have like 23% less iron.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. You just
Type
take a
shit.
just take a fucking vitamin and you're fine.
Well, I mean that's also true, but how many people take vitamins?
Not very many.
Yeah.
But listen, that's besides the point. Because guess what? We're all just cogs in the machine, and it don't really matter what happens to us. Because we're bees in the hive, like Ben said. We'll just
work for them.
so. The thing about that is that I can go to McDonald's right now, and for like $10, I can buy.
Give me a big old double quarter.
Yeah, I could buy me like 2,600
Juice
calories.
coming down my elbows, dog.
Oh, dude, think about it.
Big old French fry that'll look the same for 2 years.
Yes, but it's cheap calories, man. Think about it. It goes back to the thing where I was talking about being hungry. I watched a thing the other day about DRC. You know what DRC is?
No, I don't. Explain.
Democratic Republic of Congo. It's in the middle of Africa.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, that'll make you appreciate what you have.
Really?
Because one of the examples that struck me so hard is that he was talking to the guy that was doing the show was talking to the guy who was a native. He lived there, and they were eating meat. And he was, because it was like a special occasion. This guy came in, doing a show,
Right.
and he was like, the sad part is this is a day's wages here. Like the meat that we're eating, that's a day's worth of wages. Think about that for a second.
Day wage, like
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
I ain't counting my own bread, but let's say $150 a day. Imagine that's what it's taking to have somebody over feed them some beef.
Exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make. Think about that. I know how much I make a day. I make about $200 a day when I work at the post
Why
office.
ain't you just rich as hell?
Yeah, but they get that $200 every fucking day.
Yeah,
They got it today, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But if you told me I had to pay $200 to eat some meat today, I'd be like, I guess I ain't eating no
Dude, I'm
fucking
going
meat.
hunting.
But you know what I can do? I can go to McDonald's. You know what I ate last night? I ate
Tell
a
me.
chuck roast stir fried. I probably ate
That sounds good.
I probably ate a half pound of meat for $10. That's
Oh, dude, love.
that's 5% of my daily wages.
That's the good thing about a roast.
But listen, that's 5% of my daily wages. And I could eat the whole damn thing for 10%. I could eat the whole pound. I could just eat it. It was mine to have.
Yeah.
A big old plate of potatoes and meat.
A pack of bag of taters is $6. A bag of carrots a few bucks, and then a $8 roast, dude. Yeah.
See, that's how you keep the people happy.
Well, you got that right.
See, that's what people, we don't realize what we got here. That's what I mean. It makes you appreciate. Man, I was watching that. It's so supposedly Africa's like the next superpower of the world. And I could see it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, them old boys, They went to a train station. They got one train that still runs in the DRC. And these old boys are sitting around. They got this train running. They're wiring shit together, fucking plugging shit in, pushing shit in the intake, spraying stuff in, getting this motherfucker started, and they're driving around. They are as proud as can be. And this one old boy is sitting around with a fucking piece of pipe and a cold chisel, cutting out sheet metal to put on these trains. With a fucking chisel and a piece of pipe. If you give this guy... If you just give this old boy a fucking a fucking pair of tin snips and a damn and a damn metal brake, he could build you a fucking train.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they have literally, those people have learned the hard way.
They have to survive.
But that's the thing, we have lost that here in America.
Dude.
We do not. I'm telling you, it's like that old man was telling me.
Kids at T-balls get dust on their eye and they're done for the day.
We have lost that. Our great grandparents knew what it was like, but that privilege is.
And what's crazy is they didn't do that to pay their Verizon bill on their iPhone or the $4 a gallon gas. They feed their fucking baby.
Yes, but that's what's wrong with America right now.
We don't know the struggle.
We don't want to pay more than 78 cents for a gallon of milk, but we'll go out and buy a brand new $80,000 truck every day of the week.
Yeah, put holler boys on it.
And the problem with that is you know who's paying for that? We are. Right here, right now. That's the reason America's falling apart. It's because just like manufacturing, just like farming, logging, and all the rest of them, we don't want to pay for those things. You know what one of the rich people told my dad one time? He said, Doug, people don't want to pay for what they need. They pay for what they want. They will never pay because my dad was. That's the way they. You know what my dad's nickname was Farmer. That's what they call him.
Farmer Doug.
Farmer. And they're like, man, you're just way. One of them told you know what one of them told my dad one time?
What's that?
Doug, you work way too hard to make money. you work way too hard to make money.
He's probably thinking if I worked as many hours as you, I'd make $200 million a year.
But see, that's the problem is that, like he said, people don't want to pay for what they want. They pay for what they need. Or they don't want to pay for what they need. They pay for what they want.
Right.
And what they want is iPhones and big screen TVs. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like I said, I deal with it every day at the post office. My job has basically got ruined by Amazon. I'm up here delivering Prime Day today, dealing with it right now. Because it's just cheaper and easier to order it on Amazon than it is to go to the store and get it. And guess who's paying for that? Guess my job. I'm delivering that shit for free every day. And it's making my life harder. And what those people don't realize is that they're mining themselves out. They're pushing themselves out of a job because they're buying all that Chinese gumball machine bullshit from Amazon. And now they wonder why they can't get a good job in America. They wonder why you can't make more than $15.
We're outsourcing all of our resources elsewhere.
Because guess what?
Consumers.
Exactly. Yes.
The land of the free, the land of the consumer.
That's the problem. Everybody complains about, well, God, I can't get a good job. And I'm like, you know why? Because we don't make anything here. There are no good jobs to have because we've gotten rid of all of them. Because we'd rather have cheap. It's like the dairy farmer and the milk.
But our economy is where you have everybody's struggling, not just us. Like a mom has to get spaghetti and ragu because.
But that's what I'm saying. Okay.
They gotta feed their baby.
But that is a vicious cycle. That is a continuous feedback loop. My thing is, and this has nothing to do with farming. But if we as everyday people want to change our situation, we have to change it. Nobody's going to do it for us. We can't vote for a politician and make these things happen.
No, the robots. They read off prompters.
Well, do you know one of the biggest things that I'm scared of right now?
What's that?
Automation. Because I'm going to tell you right now.
Replaced by a robot that's more efficient than you, smarter than you, has less default.
Because you know what they say? They say the same thing we've said for centuries. When we get this new technology, it's just going to make your life easier. You won't have to work as much.
No, it's
Has that ever
completely
fucking worked? Because guess what? When the train came out, when the car came out, when electricity came out, did we work less? No, we just produced more. We just consumed more. You know what I thought about today? You know what you're paying for when you pay for something?
Tell me.
You're paying for somebody's labor. Because you didn't have to pay for that piece of metal you dug out of the ground. It wasn't like you paid Mother Earth for that.
That's true.
You know what you paid for? You paid for that guy to dig it out of the ground. That's what you paid for.
For somebody to acquire that resource and sell it.
Exactly. That's the thing. We're eating ourselves. We're cannibalizing ourselves. If we don't wake up to this, we're fucked. Man. I'm telling you, the way I see this going, the path that we're on, I've been reading a lot of George Orwell. And basically his whole thing was communism. And I'm going to tell you right now, those things are more relevant now than they have ever been. When I read those books, it scares me. Like, you need to read Fahrenheit 451 or 1982 or Animal Farm, things like that. The things that are going.
Way after you get done with
No, I'm listening to them.
Oh, okay.
I do that on the route when I'm delivering mail.
Yeah, gotcha. Go ahead though.
Our biggest enemy right now is that fucking thing right there, that phone.
Cell phone.
Because
it makes a sound.
Oh no, that is the ultimate source of control. They can make you think and do anything they want you to do. They know every fucking thing.
They have access to your mind.
They have access to everything you do, everything you buy, everything you eat, everything you like, everything you look at.
A phone is a good representation of who you are. They can tell who you
are
from the phone.
But that's what I'm saying. We are headed towards this Orwellian society. And the perfect example is China right now. With their whole social credit system. Have you heard about that? So they have a thing.
Believe, they would get in trouble for what their grandparents did or something.
No, they get in trouble for what they think and what they do. Get this. This is one thing I heard. I don't know how true it is, but I heard it. You can get your credit score, which is like a credit score that we have with credit cards and stuff. You can get it dinged. You can get it downgraded for not charging your phone enough. For letting your phone die. Because that shows to them that you're not...
You don't need what they're...
No.
Okay.
It shows that you're not organized enough. That you're not...
Responsible.
That's the word. Yes. Responsible enough to charge your phone. That is an invasion of... That to me, that you talk about being bees in the fucking hive. If they get that kind of control over us, then we're just a number.
You don't know what's scary? Which is why, you remember, this is why I want to start this podcast. Because I was searching for somebody who was, I wanted to figure out what the fuck happened. And I couldn't find it. Dude.
God.
Nobody's talking about it.
Okay, so you know one of the wildest things that I realized today? I was listening to a book. So, an Animal Farm. They have the side of the barn that they write their commandments on. And in the book, the pigs will go and... They wrote these commandments like, thou shalt not kill animals. Thou shalt not drink. Well, every time the pigs would drink, or they would kill an animal, they would go out to the commandments and they would add something to it. They would say, thou shalt not drink in excess. Thou shalt not kill an animal without a good reason. And every time the animals go to the barn, they're like, I thought it said this, but it says that. The wildest thing about the world we live in now is that nothing's written down. The thing about a book is when a book was written, it was written. Unless you burned that book, it was always there. The problem with the internet is you can go in and rewrite anything you want, and there was never any proof of what was there.
You can go on Wikipedia and put
Exactly. Exactly. So they can tell us exactly what they want us to know. Without there's no proof. They could go on. You could go on there tonight and type in something about farming, and it'd be different than it was the day before, and you're like, I thought it said this, but did it? Like, there's no proof anymore. You can write anything you want. They can control any kind of information they want. There's no proof.
That's what they want to is control. But hey, we're running out of daylight. There is no light in the camera anymore. We've been going for 2 hours. This is the Farming Now podcast. I'm Benjamin Butts. My partner in crime, my guest, my co-host, whatever you want to call him, that's Scotty. Hey, we appreciate you all for listening. We're not trying to... We don't have any sort of like motive besides just bringing attention to what's happening to our community, because it's really sad. But thank you all for listening. Again, I'm Benjamin Butts. My partner in crime there, Scotty. Hey, thanks for listening. Come back to the next one. See you soon.